What is up, everybody? Been meaning to talk about that just a little bit late, but it certainly is important information because we're trying to keep up with how the entertainment industry is going because, well, it's opening up doors. It's opening up these sort of windows of opportunities for alternatives to come in and do their thing, as well as old talent who is leaving the old guard that are established. They know how to make solid content and maybe attaching themselves to, let's say, the legacy stuff. The mainstream stuff is going to be a thing of the past. For some of them, it's going to take some time. But let's talk about this. In fact, let's start here. Disney Plus drops 2.4 million subscribers in the first loss. Bob Iger held significant transformation is going to be underway. It's reading here. Disney Plus lost a net 2.4 million subscribers in the last 3 months of 2022, marking the streaming service's first decline since launching in late 2020. That is very, very significant. Repeating that one more time, this is the first time, or rather it's this first decline since launching in late 2020, while the Mouse House's quarterly earnings topped Wall Street estimates thanks to a surge in revenue at Disney's theme parks. Again, guys, I've told you many times before, the thing that separates the Disneys of the world and the more like more entertainment, like alternative stuff, is that they have a big, massive pool of money to pull from other industries that they're involved in. This is why Disney, as long as they have these parks and, well, you got people, be it the FOMO or they just want to feel obligated to go to Disney theme parks, they're going to be, I don't want to say okay, but they're going to be able to stay afloat. That doesn't mean that Disney is going to keep operating. We'll talk about this here in a little bit. They will have their changes, make absolutely no mistake, because operating as they are now and just relying on theme parks certainly isn't that's not going to work. However, they can at least stay afloat for a little while. They can make it work for a little while because, well, most of their money is coming from their theme parks, not just in Florida, but really internationally. So keep that in mind. It's not just the movies. It's not just all of that. They can pull from other resources and still fund sort of these institutions, or their institution, that is. The results are Bob Iger's first back in CEO role after Disney's board summarily ousted Bob Chapek in November, with Iger seeking to reassure investors that the company has a plan to get back on track. Overall, Disney posted revenue of $23.51 billion. So they're up in terms of their actual revenue, and adjusted earnings per share 99 cents for the quarter ended December 31st, 2022. Disney's Q1 of fiscal year 2023. That beat analyst consensus estimates of $23.37 billion and 78 cents. So they beat it, but barely. The drop in Disney Plus subscribers, which was bigger than the analysts expected, that's what it says here, was entirely driven by 3.8 million sequential decline. Disney Plus Hotstar, the version of the service offered in India and parts of Southeast Asia, to stand at 161.8 million at the end of 2022. Last year, Disney lost streaming rights to India Premier League cricket matches. Okay. International stuff. So kind of live and die by the sword, huh? In the U.S., Canada, Disney Plus gained about 200,000 subs to reach 46.6 million, and Hulu gained 800,000, and ESPN increased by 600,000. While Disney's direct-to-consumer revenue for the quarter rose to 13% to $5.3 billion, while its operating loss increased. So this is the important thing. When you're talking about the difference between sales, revenue, and profit, you have to understand, you can go up in a certain number, and that doesn't mean that you're even breaking even. You can still be actively losing money. This is, to me, when it comes to, they're making these advances here and there. As it says right here, the operating loss increased 78% to $1.05 billion. The higher year-over-year operating loss, which was better than analysts' forecast loss of $1.2 billion for the DTC. So at least on the direct-to-consumer aspect, of operational costs, they are losing over $1 billion, essentially, is what it seems. Now, I think it does go up a little more. It says, at Disney's linear TV networks, revenue dropped 5%. So the revenue dropped there. Iger did note that the price of Disney Plus without ads increased. So they are trying to bring in more money. So they have increased in revenue. Make no mistake, in certain aspects. However, there are going to be some changes, certainly, with this company. Like it says right here, and I think this is an important part, revenue for the Disney's domestic TV channels business, which include ABC and ESPN, decreased 1%. The lift in operating income was attributable to lower costs for sports programming on cable, while broadcasting results were comparable to prior year quarter, as growth at the owned local stations from higher ad revenue largely offset by lower results. Now, this is another one right here that was released. Same guys over at Variety. Bob Iger returned to the throne, yada, yada, yada. It says times have changed. Iger admitted during an hour-long earnings presentation, it's gotten more competitive. The forces of disruption have only gotten greater, and there are certain things as a residual of COVID that have gotten rougher for the macroeconomic perspective. Again, keep in mind, all that stuff I talked about, revenue going up, yada, yada, in certain areas. Understand, if that meant anything, they wouldn't be making the changes that they are making right here. But Iger cautioned Disney North Star remains the storytellers who have helped make its entertainment empire the envy of Hollywood, one that extends from Star Wars to Marvel, which both of those don't seem to be doing that well, certainly right now. They celebrated his term. This is a bunch of nonsense. His goal, he made clear, is to get Disney's fiscal house in order. And that means, so again, Bob Iger's talking about the money. We could talk about if it was a front, the whole Chapek situation, Iger, but here is talking about, that's what he is, I guess, espousing as his goal here. He says that means, listen to this, Disney will shed 7,000 jobs, 3% of his workforce, along with a new emphasis on making money as opposed to just adding Disney Plus customers. Now, the reason why this is happening, if you remember in the previous quarter, they had lost on Disney Plus alone, they had lost, I can't remember if it was like $1.5 billion or something of that nature. It was a significant amount of money that they did not make going into, they lost, let's say that, in the previous quarter. So we're going into this next quarter, going into future quarters, this next year, fiscal year, let's say 2023. They're trying to make some money. And in order to do that, they are cutting a significant amount of jobs, 3% of their workforce. It says we are going to take a really hard look at the cost of everything that we make across television and film, because things in a very competitive world just simply got more expensive. That's Hollywood's own doing. I've talked about that in the past. They are overspending for so many of these different movies, and that's what they get. We want the quality on the screen, but we have to look at what it cost us. He added another point. Iger also suggested that Disney had spent too much money on advertisement as it looked to grow its base on streaming viewers, and that it might need to hike the cost of signing up to see the latest streaming Marvel show or Star Wars spinoff. Are we pricing correctly? So he's essentially saying that I guess with these prices with like the Disney Pluses of their company, is it not enough? Let's say that. That's certainly what investors want to see and hear as it documents right now. But I said Iger isn't just overseeing layoffs. He's been also remaking the company, undoing much of what Chapek put in place, like a snap from Thanos. Iger vanished the powerful Disney media and entertainment distribution group that stood at the core of his brief predecessor, Chapek's vision. So they've axed at least some sort of ideas in a sweeping reorganization. Iger handed the content keys to Dana Walden, chief of all of Disney's television efforts, and Alan Bergman, the top name in film. ESPN and its direct-to-consumer business in ESPN Plus was spun away from the company's content holdings and will now operate as a standalone company. Interesting. That's very interesting. So long story short, they're looking at it. Iger's looking at it. The company's looking at it like, we got to be making money. You know, they boast these numbers and it hasn't amounted to anything. So this is why when people just boast like subscribers alone, and even to be fair with like how much money they spent or made for that matter, it doesn't tell the full story. And that's what people that like to think that, we talk about this comic book industry all the time. They like to think that just, hey, there's a number, like a sales number. And they don't look any further than that. So they look at it like this movie brought this much money and therefore all is good. They're doing well. The company's doing well. That's not necessarily the case, because you have to look at it in detail. You have to look at it in context. And sometimes they're spending way too much money. And just because you're making money, if you're spending more of it, you're still operating at a loss. Okay. Yes. Mega corporations do often operate utilizing like debt and things of that nature. They're not like myself, who really all of my stuff, we have the liquid assets, liquefied assets, not completely liquefied, but you get what it is that I'm saying. I'm able to, you know, like reach in and we have the cash to spend other things. I'm not spending debt, right? Some business owners would prefer that you don't do it. I'm of the opinion that debt is a very evil thing. And if you could stay away from it, by all means, do it. Nonetheless, so many companies that is regular with definitely mega corporations like the Disneys of the world. And I think really the main thing that's keeping these guys afloat are their parks, man. Their parks seem to still be knocking it out the park, for that matter. So they can lay a dud, they can overspend, they can do all that. But if you have another place where you can then pull from those resources, be it in debt or whether it be with like another department of your company, like with the theme parks, well, yeah, there's that. They can do that. It's a told y'all, man. It's not just a movie. Like people, hey, I'm no longer watching Disney. I'm no longer doing this because they support grooming and all this other weird stuff, which, yeah, it's not necessarily false. But yeah, I mean, if you're still going, hey, we need to go to Disney and take my kids there because he's still funding them one way or another. So, but it does look that there are going to be some changes over at Disney. We'll see what else happens out of that. It's something to keep an eye on, and I'll keep reporting the reports. That is, see what happens. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.